Navya, thank you. You are somebody who is followed by, I think, millions of young women, and I want to say young men as well. And just to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing here, we're partnering with different schools to talk to teenage girls in particular, because we feel that this age between 13 and 18 in particular, everybody's wired, everybody's online, but nobody actually has necessarily access to great role models, people they can talk to, people they can turn to. So before I get to all the exciting stuff that you're doing, and I know you're doing so much in this space, I want to take you back to the time you were about 15, let's say. Um, and I understand that there may have been, you had the benefit of, let's say, privilege, something that you're often asked about. But privilege doesn't insulate you from cruelty, from conflict, from confusion, from trying to figure out who you are, what you want to be. So can you take us back to those years and talk a little bit about what you remember about that time, Navya?
Yeah, firstly, thank you. I'm super excited to be here and be doing this. And thank you for always keeping me in mind for everything that you do. I think when I was 15, I was kind of a while back, but I remember being a lot more shy than I am today. I think I was at 15, I was still discovering myself. I was still in a space of um just getting and coming to terms with the fact that the world is changing. I have more responsibilities now. I was actually sent to boarding school at the age of 12, so I was in boarding school when I was 15, and I think for me it was a big change in just life because I went from my parents to then suddenly being by myself. And I think at the time I was very underconfident. I know that as a teenager as well, when I was in school, till I finished school, I was a very shy, very quiet. I was that girl who was reading a book during break time in the classroom. I was not the girl who felt the most confident to talk and make friends. I didn't have really a lot of friends when I was younger.
What were you underconfident about?
I don't know. I think just the way that I looked and just the way that I was, I didn't feel like I was the smartest person in the room. I, was a fairly average student. I wasn't getting the best marks. I wasn't exactly athletic, so I wasn't, excelling in sports. I don't exactly have the best voice. So it's not like I was, in the creative field or in music. So I think I was kind of stuck in this phase where I didn't really know what I was good at. And that kind of bogged me down a lot. And I think it took me some time to come to my own and come to kind of figure out what my strengths are. But at that time, at that age, I think I was very confused and very lost about what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that's a question that your parents start asking you at 15, is what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to study when you go to college? And you suddenly have to start thinking about all these things. And I didn't have those answers. So I think I felt a bit lost. I felt a bit confused.
But what's really, I think, illustrative for the young women here is the fact that you went from being that underconfident young girl to today being somebody who's often front facing a cause, a campaign. You're very public, and you're not in the public eye because of, a famous last name. You're in the public eye because of causes that you've picked up. And I want everybody here to take in the fact that even if you're feeling conflicted, underconfident, confused, introverted right now, so did Navya when she was your age. Navya,
I still feel introverted, and I still, every time I have to go up on a stage or go into a room full of people, I still, I'm still that 15-year-old Navya who is a little nervous and a little insecure about going up there and making sure that I say the right thing. So I still feel all of those things. Like, I was nervous even to get onto this call. I was like, oh, like, there are going to be people listening to me. And so I still feel all of those things. And I think it's a very normal feeling, that everybody has. But
I mean, I think the important thing is to not let it overcome you, right?
yeah, I think it's about knowing and keep reminding yourself that what you're going to say or what you're going to do is going to add some value to the world, and have confidence in that. And I think that's what makes me feel confident. But yeah, I still do feel all of those things before I have to go up anywhere publicly and say anything.
I mean, nobody believes it, but my knees before any public event, knees shake just a little bit because I want to do well. And I always have that
Yeah.
tension about I won't do my 100%. And I always say it's okay to feel a little bit of anxiety because it shows that you really care
Yeah.
about everything that you do. Tell me, how did you, how did you feel that gender rights, equality, this was such a big part of what you were going to do eventually? You could have gone in two different directions. You have, in fact, gone in one of them. You are, running. You're also leading, in a way, your family business on your father's side. You opted to not go into the entertainment side on your mom's side. But one or two key entrepreneurial missions, as it were, that you lead, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's mainstreaming the conversation around reproductive health, especially among young women. How did this happen for you? Was it a moment? Was it a conversation with a friend? Was it a personal experience?
I think a lot of the conversations that I have around women's rights or women empowerment, these are, I think, all feelings that we've universally had. I think regardless of your background or the privilege or the socioeconomic history that you come from, I think these are things that all women feel, especially Indian women. I think growing up for me as well, when I was in school, I still remember getting my first period in my classroom and being laughed at because I had stained my skirt. And that was a conversation that, the school never had with me, my teachers never had with me. Yes, my mom had that with me, but I never felt secure in my school getting my first period. It was actually a very scary feeling for me because I had stained my skirt and people were laughing at me.
What did they say? Were they just
They were
sniggering?
just there was just laughter, and I was confused. It was the first time this was happening to me, and I just kept sitting on my chair till the break so that I could wait and then get up and leave, and I didn't want to walk out in front of everybody. But I think that this is probably something maybe a lot of young women might have faced when they get their first period, because it's not something that's really talked about in schools. It was not something we were ever told about, especially not something that maybe the boys were sensitized to. So there was always this feeling of feeling uncomfortable and awkward. And that's certainly what I felt. And I think that that's where really the conversation around menstrual hygiene and reproductive rights for me really came from, because I've had some of those experiences in school, growing up, and not feeling like I had a space or a environment where I could talk about my body freely without being laughed at or without
Yeah,
being judged. And I really wanted to create that space for younger girls and for women, because I think it is very important. And I think that not just for younger girls, I think for younger boys as well, it's an important conversation to have, and no one was having those conversations, because it was a topic that we just thought was very stigmatized or taboo or awkward to
yeah.
have. And so that was the conversation I was trying to have. And
I always thought that even what sanitary products, pads are called, whisper, or the fact that when you go to a pharmacy to purchase them, they will give it to you in a completely opaque black plastic
yeah.
sheath, as it were, a kind of funereal quality to it. It
Yeah.
captures, in a sense, the taboo dimension around it.
I'll
And by,
I'll actually tell you a story that I that actually, like you said, a moment where I felt that wow, a lot has to be done is when we started off our work in the menstrual hygiene and reproductive health space. We were doing a workshop similar to this with young girls, but slightly younger, around the age of maybe 11 to 12. And the conversation was on menstrual hygiene, and we were talking about first periods, and everyone was sharing their experiences and talking about their first period. And this young girl, I think she was 12 years old, she said that when I got my first period, I was confused because my blood was red and I thought it would be blue.
Hmm,
Because for on sanitary pad commercials, for the longest time, you see blue liquid being poured onto the pad. And so, she thought that her sanitary blood was going to be blue. And that is something that was so shocking to me, because I said that companies and brands that are literally creating products for this purpose are unable to transparently advertise
yeah,
what they're actually doing. And that was a very scary thing to hear from somebody, that that kind of misinformation
yeah.
is so widely spread among so many people.
And Navya, I'm actually going to open the floor for the girls here to share their experiences, but I have one more question of you on this. You're absolutely right that irrespective of class and privilege, there is certain sort of I don't know, self-doubt and conflict and confusion and underconfidence that all young women go through. But when it comes to your period and not having access to menstrual hygiene, for girls with less privilege than ours, than all of us sitting here, it actually means dropping out of school.
Yeah.
There are millions of girls in India who stop going to school because there isn't either a proper toilet, though that's changing, beginning to change now, or there isn't access to sanitary pads. There are still millions of young girls in this country who are bunching up pieces of cloth and paper and using that instead of tampons or sanitary pads or menstrual cups.
Yeah. It is a reality, and it is something that is very scary. I think that there's still not enough being done to combat that or to further access to young girls who have that. And I think that the only way that we can do that is of course in a personal capacity and through our social impact organizations. That is something we can do. But I think the only way that will change is if this is something that is supported in a larger way by the private sector, either by companies who make sanitary pads, whether it's the government, whether it's our education system that, ensures that these things are not of an obstacle for young girls to come to school, and that's maybe something that educational institutions should provide, so that their students don't need to drop out, or their students don't need to, miss days of school because they're on their period. And all these conversations to happen and all of these actions to take place, I think it's people like us to start having these conversations, to put that kind of pressure on our education system or the people around who are responsible for making this happen, to actually create any kind of impact if we have to.
Can I ask you before I open the floor, how did you mindfully wrestle with some of the taboos or social sort of almost hardwired responses that we are all, I want to use the word guilty, but we're all sort of, it's second skin. So for example, when I remember being younger and needing a sanitary pad and wanting to go to the loo and wrapping it up, and somebody saying, "Where are you going?" And I'd say, I'll just be back." And then growing into that person who would openly not cover that sanitary pad and carry it with me into the washroom and say, "Hey, I need to change my pad." The fact that you get to a point where you can talk about these things openly sometimes has to be a mindful intervention, even in your own behavior. Did
Yeah.
you find that you had to mindfully do that, change how you were wired by
I did.
collective conditioning to behave?
Yeah, I did. And I think similar to you, I was also somebody who would feel very awkward and, would wrap it up and hide it and take it into the washroom, especially in the workplace. If I was in an office, I would feel very conscious to, just carry a pad with me openly. It would always be a very hush hush kind of thing. And I fortunately have grown up in a home where I have women and a family that has always been very open about these things, and my mom is actually a big driving factor in the sense that she always encouraged me to be very open about it. And I think that I learned from her because she, I have a younger brother, and she would very openly just, be like, I'm not in the mood today, I just got my period. That's not something you would hear a mother say, because that's a very, you know it's something that they would just keep to themselves, that like,
Yeah.
I'm on my period, I don't feel the best. But she's always been very vocal about how she feels and why she's feeling what she feels, that I think it normalized that for me as well. And this whole concept of being ashamed of it, like, I read this beautiful quote that said that menstrual blood is only blood that's not born from violence, but yet we're the most ashamed of it. And
Yeah.
so that's something that really changed my mindset and my attitude towards it. And I think that since then I have become more open about it, and I see that how that has helped, maybe my younger brother, who is now very, okay to have conversations around periods and menstrual hygiene and cramps and all of this. And I think that it's only when we realize that it's okay to talk about it, it's okay to normalize it, is when it actually does become normal, and we for ourselves are creating a space where we feel comfortable. So it does take a little bit of effort to bring in that confidence to do it, but I think once you do it, you see the change. And it's something you're not just doing for yourself, but for a lot of other young girls as well. You're giving society a chance to just be normal about it.
And to include boys in the conversation, whether your
Yeah,
brothers or your friends, is a critical
absolutely.
part of lifting the taboo around it. But there's lots to talk to you about, Navya, but I want maybe to just pause here and ask our young audience to share their stories. I'm sure you have questions, comments, your own experiences. Akshata, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Hello. Um, I had one question. So you've been an advocate for various social causes, correct? Um, so what are some issues that were particularly important to you and like have affected you to a point where your thought process had changed? And what exactly like do you do to like, support these causes? Because one even tiny little help could make a huge change in the world. So that's my question.
That's a really good question, Akshita. Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, there are so many causes. I think, especially today in the world that we live in, there's so much that has to be done and so many things that have to be supported. I think for me, it's always been in relation to women. Everything that I do through my organization has been to support women. And of course, apart from health, which is something we just talked about, which is something
Tell,
that I
tell them a little bit more about your organization.
Okay, I'll do that. So I run a nonprofit which is called Project Naveli, and we work in mainly four areas. And I, to answer your question, think that these are four areas in which I personally believe, we need to do a lot for women. So one, of course, we just talked about healthcare. We also work in entrepreneurship. So how do we make women financially independent? That's something that is, according to me, something very, very important and very, very necessary. Maybe we don't see the importance of it right now, but it's something that, when, at least for me, when I'm in my 20s and I'm working and I'm earning, it's a very, very crucial component to, what the rest of your life looks like for a woman. So health, financial independence. The third area that we work in is legal awareness. How do we as women educate ourselves about our legal rights? That's something that I personally didn't know 2 years ago, what my legal rights were as a woman, as a young girl in India. And that's what we work in. I think that's a very important space and an important cause to work towards, is how do you, one, learn your rights, and two, how do you make legal help and legal assistance financially viable for women. So we provide free of cost legal services, and I think that that's something that I really believe in. And the last one, and the last area that we work in is education. So I think these are the four crucial causes that I really believe in. I think that the most valuable thing that I've been given in my life is my education. And while I was in school, I thought it was the most useless and pointless thing that I was being put through, and I was like, why am I doing this? I'm never going to remember anything, and why will chlorophyll ever help me in my life, and why am I going to care about algebra? But I see the value of it now at 26, when I started working, and I really now go back and say that it's the most valuable thing I've been given. So these are the four causes, to answer your question, that I think are so crucial, and also the four areas that my organization works in.
I just have one connecting question because you said you sort of empower women to become more independent, correct? So, like, in your opinion, what are like some of the biggest challenges we women face in today's business world? And like, how can we like, as like a whole community, women work towards this to become like to create greater like gender equality in entrepreneurship?
I don't think I was this smart when I was your age, to be honest. I would not be asking these kind
These
of
are
questions.
pre-prepared questions from last night.
Wow. I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think I was this aware and this smart at your age. But um, I think that there's a lot that has to be done when it comes to entrepreneurship for women and women who run businesses. A way that a way at least in which that we support, and I think that all of us as a community, like you said, can support, is exactly that, by being a community. I think for women who run businesses, there aren't a lot of places that they can go to where
Mhm.
see other female founders or other female business owners. And that's what we do at our organization. We have a community called Entreprenari, which is now today almost 25,000 women who run very small businesses. And it's about supporting each other, with resources, with mentorship, with guidance. There's a lot more that you need than just money to run a business. You need a lot of motivation, you need a lot of guidance, you need a lot of support. And these are things that I think women lack in the traditional entrepreneurship community, and that's what we try to give through us. We also try and support them by promoting their products. I promote a lot of women led brands. The clothes that I wear, a lot of them are from women led companies. I think we have to make a conscious effort to do that, to promote and support. And also, if we're looking to buy something, see if, we have a woman small business somewhere in Mumbai that you can just buy it from. And, that's the kind of impact that we at like an individual level can do. But yeah, I think community is everything. I think that having a community to be able to talk the way that you and I are talking for a woman in business is really going to help her to answer some of the questions that she might have.
Before I bring in the next question, Navya, female role models. You've grown up in a family of very, very strong, assertive, opinionated women. There are girls who are it's almost suggested to them that they should be seen but not heard. It has been the opposite for you. If anything, the older women in your family are the most opinionated, right? Talk a little bit about how that has shaped you.
I think initially, like I said, I was such a shy girl. Like when I was younger, I was very shy, and I've grown up in a family where yes, the women are very vocal, but they've also been women who've been working from a very young age, whether it was my mom, my grandmother, on both sides, my dadi, my nani, my bua, so all of them have been working women, all of them have been educated women, all of them, whether that's formally educated or something that they decided to take up upon themselves. My mother was a college dropout, but she taught herself in the years that she was raising us. And I think that these were all, I was surrounded by women who were extremely vocal and very confident in themselves and their beliefs. And that took me some time to get used to, because I was not that girl. I was a very shy and, like I said, very quiet. And I think at 15, or when I was a teenager, I didn't have a lot of opinions. And I think maybe it's because I was, I didn't really push myself to, stand up and talk about things that I believed in. I believed in a lot of things, but I didn't have opinions about them because I felt that nobody wanted to listen to me. But I think it's that the women in my family and the role models, like you said, that I grew up around, gave me that space and asked me for my opinions. And I think that's not something that maybe we often do with women at home. Is if there's a decision being made, you will include the men of the house and maybe the senior women of the house. You're never going to ask the 15-year-old girl what she thinks about that decision. But that's something that my family always encouraged us to do. So whether it was a decision that was financial, personal, a business decision, whether I knew enough about it or not, they would always ask me for my opinion. And that made me feel that my voice mattered and that my opinion mattered. And that's when I started speaking up. And now I think they regret that, because now I'm giving my opinion on absolutely everything. But I think it's really encouraging when you have people who give you a space, especially at home, to talk about what you feel and to voice your opinion, and especially to make you feel like your voice matters and what you say matters and your opinion is of value. And I'm very grateful that I, grew up in an environment that allowed me to do that.
Punya, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
So hi, thank you for taking your time off to talk to us today. Your stories have been so relatable and it's actually genuinely so inspiring. So thank you for that. So my question is, a lot of these ideologies about periods and the stigma that's attached to it comes from the idea of religion, and that periods naturally have negative energy and it's something that's not pure. It's something allow girls to come to pujas and they have.
Punya, you're bunching up a bit, but I'm getting the gist of your question is basically the idea of a period being impure. I think your connection is a bit weak, but I got the gist of your question. So till you fix that, I'm just going to ask Navya to respond to it. Go ahead, Navya. Yeah.
That's a really important question as well. And I think that, the whole idea of it being impure or dirty or negative energy is something I don't agree with, because if you go to the fundamentals of if you get into the science and the biology of what a period is, I think it is a sign that a woman is now able to give birth, or she's able to reproduce. And I think for me, there's nothing purer than bringing life into this world. So I would say that, I disagree with the idea of it being impure. I think it's actually the most pure thing ever, that you're saying that now a woman is at a stage in her life, biologically and personally, where she can reproduce. And what can be more pure than bringing a newborn child or a new life into the world, or creating life? Creation of life is something that we should celebrate, not something that we should call negative or impure. And that's always been my answer to it. And I think that people start to see that, and I think they start to see the value of what this means biologically and scientifically, but also what it means to us religiously. I think, like, even in our religion, we've always celebrated life and celebrated birth and celebrated the creation of life, and that's exactly what it stands for. So for me, that's always been the answer when people ask me that, what do you feel when people say that it's impure?
Can I ask you, Punya, before I ask my next question of Navya? Is it easier these days, or is it as complicated to talk about your period openly? Like, how does
I
it work
think
for you,
it's a
for
lot
your
easier.
generation?
Personally, I think it's a lot easier, but I think that's just because of the family I'm in and because of the school I go to. But I teach in an underprivileged school, so for them, they are still not anywhere as close to as educated as us. So I think it's still a lot to do with where you're born. And sure, that's getting better. But even for them in the school, they still don't come to school the days they have
Mm,
periods. So
yeah.
it's improving, but not substantially.
And by the way, even in richer homes, there are still homes where they will be, don't touch the pickle, stay to
Yeah.
yourself. So these taboos are quite real. Anyone else wants to share a personal story, or has it been pretty easy for all of you? I want to move on to other things as well, but I'm just going to randomly call upon Ananya. Is it easy? Is it now pretty easy to sit around the dining table and say, oh no, I'm on my period, I'm feeling a bit irritated, or I'm not feeling, I need to go and change my trousers, I'm feeling a bit sticky, whatever, or I'm cramping. Is it easy to have that conversation today openly?
Yes, I would say, especially in my family, I don't like, with my father around, for example. I think originally I was a bit scared, like a bit like, should I say this, should I not say? But I think now, for sure, like if I'm feeling irritated, if I'm feeling in pain, if I want to go change my pad, for example, I'm very comfortable to say it. It's not at all something I even think about anymore. I think in school it's still a bit like, if I need to change my pad, I'm like, should I hide the pad in my jacket or like carry my bag with me and stuff? So that's still there. But I mean, it's not, no one's ever said anything. So it's not like a big problem. I think it's, at
How,
least
how, are, how are male classmates about it? Like, is it
I,
easy?
I think I've never put myself in a position for anything to happen in that sense. So
Yeah.
no one's ever said anything to me. So it's never been a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Punya, did you still have your hand icon up? Did you have a follow-up question?
Oh, I just had something to say about
Yeah.
boys at this age.
Yeah.
It's that they feel a different comfort. They feel like if a girl is sort of, if she gets upset or if she gets angry or is a bit sad, they have the right to say something like, "Oh, are you on your period? Is that why you're behaving moody?" So it's a little different with boys this age in
That,
that
oh,
sense.
stop PMSing, or are you
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
That's a
tag
really,
that's
that's a
always
really,
there.
Navya, you want to take that stereotypical sort
It's
of
something that
bar.
my friends still say. My male friends will still say that, oh, are you being this way because you're just PMSing, or are you just because on your period? And that's still something that I think we have to fight against, and still something that we have to correct, because um I don't think that they will ever understand the physical toll that menstrual cramps or hormonal changes take on a woman. And I think that that's something that we have to sensitize them towards, and it's our response. And I always correct them when they say that. I always say that, actually, do you even know what PMS means? It's not just a set of mood swings. It's not just people irrationally shouting at each other. There's a lot more scientifically that goes on during that time. So I think it's about correcting them when they say that, and I always try to do that with my male friends or anybody who says that to me.
I think including guys in this conversation is so
Yeah, it's very
important.
important.
So Navya, moving on from this, recently you walked the ramp in Paris as a sort of ambassador for L'Oreal, where you are their cause ambassador. But there has been so much conversation, even in some of our earlier sessions with the girls, on body positivity, self-image, and you'd be surprised at how many women are still wrestling with this. For you in that moment with your mother and grandmom cheering on, what was that moment for you? Because you are not professionally in the fashion or films space, right? This is something you're doing additionally to your core job, which is running a business and all of your entrepreneurial ventures. But I want to use that to talk about what it meant for you. What is fashion to you? And how do you reconcile fashion with not getting fixated on a certain idea of beauty?
Yeah, I mean, it was so the actually the reason behind the show that they did, which was in Paris, was it was a show for all the ambassadors from around the world, and a lot of their ambassadors are, like you said, not actresses or not models or not traditionally in the entertainment space. You had a lot of sports women who were there. You have a lot of business women who are the ambassadors, and I think the point of the show actually, going off what you said, was to celebrate different women of different shapes, different sizes, different diversities, different nationalities, and that's what it was. And we had, of course, a lot of models walking, but you also had a pregnant lady walking. You had a father-daughter duo walking. So it was really nice to be a part of a show that celebrates different ideas of beauty. You had women from 80 to as young as 6 walking on that ramp, and I felt really honored that I was able to do that. I was able to not just represent my country, but also be a part of something that made me feel that whatever I look like and whatever my skin color is, whatever the length of my hair is, or whatever my body type is, that I'm beautiful. And I think for them it's that I'm worth it, that I'm worth the beauty, I'm worth the everything that I do. Because I think even for me, like growing up, I also struggled a lot with body image. I think that's something that we all go through. I developed a lot later on compared to the other girls in my school, and I always felt very insecure. And I think at that time, when you're I remember when I was 13 or 14, like there was all this conversation about, oh, I've got my period, I've got my period. And I didn't get my, I got my period very late. And so I felt that there was something wrong with my body, or that I, wasn't developing enough, or that I wasn't, as pretty as the other girls. And I think that at that age as well, like, I had a lot of facial hair, I had a lot of, so all of these things are going on in your head, that, the other girls are like flawless, great skin. I struggled with a lot of acne. I had, my brother would make fun of me saying that, you have more facial hair than I do. And these are all things that, I struggled with. And I felt that I was not beautiful because I didn't have clear, clean skin, and like, light eyes and long straight hair. My hair was like a frizz ball. And so I was, I did feel even young when I was younger that, these were all things that added to the fact that I was very conscious of the way that I looked. Even today, I do feel conscious. I think before walking the ramp, I was, in my head, I was like, oh my God, do I look okay? Are my legs looking okay? Is my body looking okay? I'm going to be on this platform. Everyone's going to watch me. I'm, walking the same ramp as Kendall Jenner, who's like 6 feet and skinny and tall. And like, here I am, like, I've never done this before. But I think that to me, it was just important that, if I'm going to do this, I have to own who I am. And if nobody else thinks I'm beautiful, I think I'm beautiful. And my mom and my grandmom were here today think that I'm beautiful. So that to me is everything. And I'm glad that I did that. And I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. That's not something that comes to me naturally. So I think doing that and forcing myself to put myself out there really actually allowed me to love myself a lot more. And I think that self-love is a journey. It's a process. It takes time to come to a place where you love your flaws, the way that you look, you love, just things about your body that maybe you grew up disliking. And I think that's what happened with me. I grew up disliking a lot of things about myself, and now I'm, proud of it and I own it. And I think that that's something that makes me maybe different to other girls. And that's what I would tell my younger self at 15, is that don't be conscious of these things. These are the things that are going to make you different. And these are the things that are going to make you special, and you're still beautiful. If just because you don't fit into the norm of what beauty has been taught to us and what it's supposed to be like, does not mean that you're not beautiful. So that's
in these sessions we've had actually a lot of young girls open up about how these body image issues have really impacted them deeply. Today, as somebody who girls look up to, do you feel that responsibility on your Instagram page, on your social media pages, to not promote an idea of beauty that is going to become a burden for other young girls who are looking up to you, Navya?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you see as well my page or the kind of pictures that I post, it's something that people would make fun of me for. My teeth, I have really big teeth, like my front two teeth. So my friends used to call me Bugs Bunny because I have really big, like, rabbit teeth. And if you see, like, on my Instagram, I think I'm smiling in every picture, and
Yeah.
earlier I would never do that. I was very conscious of smiling because I felt that people would make fun of my teeth, which they still do. I get a lot of comments saying that why don't you get your teeth fixed and why don't you do that, but I smile in every picture, and I feel that you know I don't want to promote the idea of that you have to look a certain way to be appreciated, and you have to look a certain way to fit in. And I, in fact, have always been very proud of just being simple. I think that I grew up being told that less is more, and less in the sense that you don't have to add a lot of makeup on to
Mm.
change the way that your face looks, and just the way that you are is fine. And people who love you for that are the people that you need to keep in your life. And so things that I'm conscious of till date, because people continue to point them out, has not affected me in that sense where I feel I need to promote a different standard of beauty. Like, I'm still smiling in every picture with my bunny teeth. I was
Yeah.
walking the ramp smiling, and people were like, who smiles on a ramp? I was like, I do, because
Yeah.
um so
Yeah.
I don't try to post stuff that is promoting something that I don't believe in. And I'm quite a simple person as well. I'm not into, like, fashion in that sense where I'm wearing all these cool clothes. I'm always in a white t-shirt and jeans, and that just makes me happy. I think that just
Yeah.
promoting the idea that you can be simple and you can still be beautiful is something that I really have always grown up believing in.
No, good for you. And I think that's just so important to not have fashion become a noose around your neck, but something that amplifies who you are. Like, for me, that is being fashionable. So in the next 10 minutes, I want to speak about you as an entrepreneur. We've spoken about a whole bunch of things, but you as an entrepreneur, a lot of the young girls here, we have something called Grow Tank. They want to be entrepreneurs. They're going to be pitching their ideas to us at the end of this program. Um, you are an entrepreneur, but you're also a businesswoman, you're also a business leader. The conservative idea of the Indian family was the sons ran the business, the daughters went off and either got married or did something else. In your family, it's the reverse. Your brother is actually joining the movies. You're
Yeah.
skipping that whole thing, and you are actually going to, and you are already running the family business. Was that a conversation that happened? Did that happen organically? How did that come to be?
Um, I think that everybody, maybe while we were growing up, thought that my brother would be the one to kind of go towards the business side, and I maybe, might do something else. Because, like I said, I grew up, I think till I was in college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So, I think everybody expected that my brother would probably be the one who would run the family business. And he actually just came out one day and said that, actually, I want to be an actor. And that was almost like a shock to everyone, that's not what we were expecting. But fortunately, I think my parents have always supported whatever we wanted to do. I think they've always been those people that if this makes you happy, go and do it, and we'll support you. And I'm so grateful that I have a family and parents like that, who just blindly have faith in anything and everything that you want to do. And their only rule was that whatever it is that you want to do, do it 100%, do it to your best, and do it because you're doing it for the right reasons. Don't do it because this is what society thinks you should do. Do it because you want to do it. um I think the whole idea of women running family businesses traditionally has been that you don't see a lot of women running family businesses. And I think for me as well, when I joined, it's also a space where that there are a lot of men, especially in the business that we are in, which is agriculture and industry, and it's like a heavy machinery
Mhm.
industry where you don't see a lot of women and you don't see a lot of female leadership. And when I talk about female leadership, I think people have this taboo or this stereotype of women being too emotional, or women being too that they're too sensitive, they're too emotional, they're not capable of being strong leaders. But for me, I think especially in the climate that we're living in, the world that we're living in, with everything happening around us, I think that the world could do with more sensitive leaders. The world could do with more emotional leaders. The world could do with more empathetic leaders. And I think that women have all of that. And I, as a young woman, feel that I bring that sensitivity to the workplace that maybe we've lacked for the longest time. And maybe that's why we're in the place that we're in. worldwide, internationally, with everything that's going on. I think that empathy, emotions, and compassion are things that women bring, and it's not something we should feel ashamed of. And I struggled with that a lot when I started working, was, how do you balance your femininity while still being strong and still being a leader? And I realized that being empathetic and being sensitive in a position of leadership is only going to cause better, your employees or the people that you work with are going to feel more confident, more supported. And I think that is the kind of beauty that female leaders bring to the workplace. And I'm glad that we're seeing more of that happen.
With relative privilege, what have you struggled with? Has it been trolling? Has it been casual sexism? Has it been trying to change mindsets, not in your immediate, but maybe your extended family or circle of friends? What has been your struggle?
I mean, I can't, I don't know if I would say struggle, because I think, like you said, I come from a lot of privilege. And I think also, to be very frank, to be, at 21, say that I want to start a business and be able to do what I do is not a reality for a lot of young girls.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't just wake up and say that this is what I want to do and have your family support you financially for that. And I think that I owe pretty much everything that I'm doing right now to the fact that I come from a particular background that gave me those advantages, that gave me those opportunities. I think I wouldn't say struggle, but I think that the tricky part of what I come from is I think knowing that you have a platform, knowing that you're being watched, and using that responsibly. I think that for me, that's always been important, that you have people watching you and you have these opportunities. Also, in certain situations, opportunities that are being taken away from other people so that they can be given to you. And so, how do you as an individual, how are you going to live up to that? How are you going to create an impact with that one opportunity that you have? For me, that's always been something that has been hard to do, which is that you feel the pressure of suddenly realizing that all of these opportunities are now at your doorstep, and you have to use them to create some kind of impact. It can't just go to waste. It can't just, if you're walking the ramp at L'Oreal, then you know that there are 100 girls probably more deserving who haven't been given that opportunity. So what can I go there and do that is going to, bring attention to something that is important and that needs to be talked about? Or, if I'm being asked to come here and talk versus somebody else, then what is it that I'm going to say that is going to create some kind of impact? And how do I use every chance and every opportunity given to me to create maximum benefit and maximum impact for what I'm talking about or what I'm standing for? I think that's always been something that's been a little difficult to try and do, is give your 100% every time you are asked to do something.
Now, before we let you go, Anusha, I'm just going to ask you as a last comment, because you're listening very intently, what were you thinking? Were there bits of it you could relate to? Were there bits of it that you felt like, okay, yeah, I go through a little bit of that? Or what are you thinking right now, Anusha?
Hi. I think the 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 first thing that you said about being a 15-year-old girl who's quiet, wearing just being reading and break time. I think that's me, and just to know that you've been able to go through all of this and become who you are today, gives me inspiration that I can do it too, and also a bit of happiness that I am able to, like, feel open about talking about my periods, for example, and to see that I'm able to start getting there, and to see that other people are going through this as well. And it's just very inspirational. So thank you for coming here and talking. And yeah, that's what I've been feeling.
Thanks, Anu.
For calling me here. It's been nice. I kind of want to go back to school now.
Yeah, it makes you feel young.
Yeah.
Navya, what would you tell your 16-year-old? We've spoken about the 15-year-old self. What would you tell your 16-year-old self?
A couple of things. I think the first thing I would tell her is that you're fine just the way that you are. You don't need to be conscious about the way that you look. People are going to love you for who you are, and people do love you for who you are. I think at that age, I always felt like nobody liked me, nobody wanted to be my friend, and and I would remind her that you're very loved, you're very valued, no matter what you look like or whatever it is, whether you're a bad student, good student, whatever it is, you're valued and you're loved. I think the second thing I would tell her is that it's going to work out. Because at 16, I was very confused. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I didn't like. And I always thought that my life is just not going to go anywhere. And I'll tell her that it's going to be okay. I'm going to figure it all out. And I think the last thing is I'm going to say that enjoy, like don't try. I think at 16, I just wanted to grow up. I just wanted to be an adult. I just wanted to, be allowed to go to parties and be allowed to live by myself without my family. And I wanted to get out of my house and I wanted to do all of those things. And now I'm like, that enjoy just being 16 and just enjoy having no responsibilities and just enjoy being young, and like don't try and grow up so fast because it's not as fun as it looks. So I would just tell her to
Absolutely.
enjoy whatever it is that she's doing. She's in school, she's young, and she's having fun, and just to be in that moment and enjoy herself and don't be in a rush to grow up.
And what I love about you is that you're always doing a million things at once. I mean, I know your mom said that. I'm always telling her, listen, can you just reduce that list? But there's so much passion, so much purpose, and so much joy. I think the whole thing is that you've got to enjoy what you do. Privilege gives us that opportunity to actually choose what we love to do. Not everybody has that opportunity, and you really maximize that, Navya. Thank you for inspiring young women and men, for doing so much with your time, for making sure every minute counts, and for being such a good partner and supporter of everything we do in the gender space. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been really fun. And thank you for having me and thinking that I would add some value to the conversation. But I had a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Navya. See you soon. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.